welcome back to Silly Points Podcast. I'm Suraj Srinivasan, and I'm here with Aakash Ramachandran, Aarav Kapur, and Rishi Arjun. And we're going to be talking about the India-South Africa Test Series that just happened. It finished up a couple of days ago. Solid win for South Africa in the series, 2-1. Keegan Peterson played really well in the third match. Kohli scoring his highest in, 2 years, I think. And obviously Pujara and Rahane not living up to the expectations yet again. Anything that stood out immediately for you guys?
So I think one thing this series showed is no matter what people's opinions of South African cricket, no matter what they think is happening to the quality and depth of South African cricket, it's always gonna be very, very tough to beat them at home. And their pace stock quality is high. I think they're right up there in the top of the world in pace attacks. I think they uncovered a couple of new gems this series, and despite missing probably their best pace, probably their spearhead in Andrik Nortje, they had 4 quality pacers throughout all 3 test matches, and they all bowled extremely well, which led to probably 5 out of 6 innings India batted collapsed. So I think that's one thing. Marco Jensen was a real star, real find-out star after he struggled in his first opening spell. He really came through with the series. Despite being a left-arm pacer, he didn't really rely on in-swing as much, but more pace and bounce. And especially because he's 6'5". And then obviously Rabada threw it back to 2018 when he was the best fast bowler in the world by miles. I don't think he got man of the series, but he was definitely a close pick for man of the series. He picked up 20 wickets in 3 tests, which is very solid. Nagidi averaged 17, 18. His spell to I think Ashwin Thakur on the penultimate day of the last test was very crucial in South Africa limiting India's lead. And then who's the 4th pacer? I think Olivier on his comeback was he was definitely the least threatening, but Andrik Nortje, and when he comes back, they have 5 to 6 quality pacers to pick out of. So I think that's one thing that definitely stood out. No matter you could say this is India's best test team of all time. They've done extremely well in 2021. They were up 1-0 in this series, and it was pretty expected for them to win this series. But South African bowlers, I think, really show that it's never going to be easy, especially in these conditions where the ball has so much seam movement, so much pace. I think only one team made over 300 this whole series, so it's definitely a very bowling condition series, and I think that's the first point.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I think also South Africa outbatted India in the second and the third test match. So the only test match where India made 300 plus, they won comfortably. But in the next 2 test matches, India made below 250 in both their innings. They did have a 240 run lead in the second test match, but they couldn't capitalize on that. So definitely South Africa outbatted India. Also, after the first test match, their best wicketkeeper batsman retired from test cricket. So that was a huge bummer for them. But they didn't lose hope. And their middle order was very stable. This was one issue that they faced in the past, but people like Keegan Peterson came up and just showed them that South Africa can also win matches against test teams like India. Also, Aiden Markram wasn't at his best form, but Aiden Markram wasn't in his best form, but Dean Elgar and the other batsmen really helped the team reach the scores and chase down the targets in time. So I think, that was a huge plus point for South Africa.
Yeah, definitely,
I think, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the interesting things I noticed, I think the commentators picked up on this, was that South Africa bowled a little bit of a shorter length. They would have backward short legs, they would have leg slips, leg gullies, and they would actually bowl the ball into the body. And they would also look for the outside edge, but they would get pretty steep bounce, probably because their pacers are pretty tall. And they took a lot of wickets that way, right? On the final day or penultimate day, they got Pujara down the leg side with an amazing catch, but they also got Rahane with a ball that bounced a lot. And I think India might have gone with a more traditional, fourth stump, pitch it up type of bowling plan. And in the end, due to the nature of the bouncy South African pitches, I think South Africa's their game plan probably helped them come up on top. Also, the Indian batsmen might not have been as prepared to face the, I guess, kind of uncertain bounce on the South African pitches, whereas South Africa's batters were probably more adept at countering any like uneven bounce. Like on the last, I guess the
It's
second
definitely where
time,
home court advantage played a
Yeah.
big role in that, right?
Exactly.
Knowing exactly
Like-
how to play it.
like Dean Elgar,
Yeah.
like taking those body blows, I think he played the
Mhm.
bounce a lot better.
Yeah, I think India tried to go with the strategy that worked for them in Australia, bowling really straight at the stumps, pitching it up, bringing LBW and Bold into play. Thinking probably because Australia and South Africa are generally known to have similar conditions, and I think probably the strategy didn't work off here. Yeah, I think for the second test, there was a lot of talk of Indians bowlers' height versus South African bowlers' heights. I think they have three guys who are all 6 foot plus, but India's only 6 foot plus bowler is beginning to play a game this series. And even Ishant Sharma is not a hit the deck bowler anymore. He's more of a pitch it up, swing the ball now. So I think that was definitely a huge factor. Definitely not something I would have expected. I wouldn't have thought like height being a big factor in a test match like that. But yeah, I think Marco Jansen was definitely a great example of that. Bumrah, Shami are definitely bowlers who like to target the stumps. Charlotte Docker is a genuine swing bowler. So those three definitely are not going to be resorted to bowling short of a length. And I think Cricket for You had an article that since Bumrah's 2020 injury, his short ball has lost a little bit of venom. And they just pulled out some stats that his career before that injury and after, and the average of his short balls, and there was like a clear difference. Not something I noticed. I think Boomer can bowl a mean bouncer for sure, but I don't think his style of bowling is suited to the way Jansen or Olivier were bowling, really hustling at the body. And I think South Africa had 20 catches. India's batsmen, South Africa's bowlers had 20 catches, I think, in the test match. And India's a lot of their wickets were mainly bowled LBW and stuff, but I don't think that probably didn't create enough chances.
Yeah, that was actually the first time ever in Test cricket that a team lost all 20 of their wickets to catches. Listening to the commentary when that happened, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also, in a lot of the away series India played recently, their bowlers have been as good, if not better, than their counterparts. Here they were almost as good. I think you would back them to have a pretty good shot at bowling South Africa out, chasing 240 on a pretty tough wicket. But I think had that 240 been more like a 270, 300, they would have had a much better shot with scoreboard pressure. So I think it comes back to the Indian batsmen not being able to be, I guess some selection issues potentially are there to talk about too.
Yeah, do you guys
Rahane-
think
Big issue
sorry.
was to start, right? Also for India, because KL Rahul was consistently scoring for India, at least seeing out a few more balls than he did in the second match and third match. Clearly made a difference. Didn't take the brunt of the deliveries of the new ball, and protecting the middle order at least. So that clearly showed with like Pujara, Rahane, even Kohli. So
So do you guys think I think after the second test match and after the third test match, different members of the Indian camp both said the pitch flattened out a little bit in the fourth innings and then it became a little easier to bat. So do you think armed with that information after the second test, after having that target was easily chased down in the second test, like a 240, only 2 wickets lost. Do you think India took the wrong decision batting first as well? They won the toss and batted first in the third test as well. And obviously, usually it's pretty default to bat first in Test cricket, but considering how easily South Africa pulled off a chase, and considering how good South Africa, the history of South Africa in fourth innings chases is definitely one of the strongest for Test cricket in the last 10 years. You think South Africa nearly chased 450 against India once at the Wanderers like 8 years ago. So when you're looking at that factor, do you think India probably should have bowled first, having won the toss in the third match?
I think
I mean,
India considers bowling to be their plus point. So I think their point of view was that if in the fourth innings their bowlers were there, they could defend even a total like 180. But of course that didn't work out because South Africa did really well. But I think the mindset was this.
Yeah, there's also a catch I think that Pujara put down. So if India, some luck had gone their way and they'd taken their catches, they still probably would have taken at the beginning of the third test match. They would have been fine with saying, okay, we have 240 to defend, on an up and down pitch. So I think it would have been a big ask for them to choose to bowl first because of like South Africa's chasing history or the way the pitch behaved.
So when you look at the series, I think it's pretty fair to say, from an Indian team's perspective, probably I think the batsmen probably have to take a major fault in losing the series. I think Kohli even said the bowlers have been brilliant, but batting collapses. I think they collapse every innings. Not gonna lie, not 5 out of 6. Even the game innings they scored 300 plus. They were due for a 400 plus score and collapsed that innings too. I think a lot has to go on the middle order there. I think KL Rahul was brilliant for India especially in the first 2 Test matches, especially in conditions these are not conditions that are friendly for openers. And I think with the starts he gave, he definitely helped make sure the middle order didn't have to come in against a new seaming ball in like before the 10th over. So I feel like the likes of Pujara, Rahane, Kohli, even Pant before he played that 100, they all should have been able to take advantage because KL Rahul did the difficult part, I think. And Mayank Agarwal too, he kind of faded away at the end of the series, but he also was, at least he wasn't getting out early every innings. He was at least bunting off the new ball. I feel like the middle order had to do a better job there, because the openers are doing the tougher job here. And we saw this even in England. Rohit and KL Rahul were very, very consistent, and the middle order at times did not give that same support until later in the series when Kohli and Pujara finally found some form. But yeah, I think, yeah. And does that middle order need to be rejigged now?
They did experiment with Vihari, right, when Kohli stepped out. Rather than bringing in Shreyas Iyer, who was in form from the previous series. Interesting decision. Vihari did what? He had a 40 not out. If I'm
Yeah,
not
he had
mistaken. Yeah. But yeah, in the first innings he scored 20. So I mean, it's definitely that's where they needed the runs and needed him to stay in. But yeah, who do you think slots into that spot instead of Rahane?
I mean, that assumes that Rahane is getting dropped for the next India's next Test tour.
There's already talk about it, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the way he actually batted, though, he looked like he was in really good touch. The first Test
more so than before, yeah.
Then like a 20 off like 23 when they're setting a target. Then second Test, it was like, again, second innings like a 49 or something, or a 42. So he played really well. He looked like a good batsman. Like, he didn't look tentative. I don't think he was as chancy early in his innings either. But I guess, yeah, now like you wouldn't, I think on the basis of this series alone, you would say he was rediscovering some of his touch, but I think it's probably too little too late.
I think it's also, yeah, Kohli's captaincy being completed right after this series. I think, yeah, selection, it's going to be, messed around with, and yeah, they're going to pick new people. So
I mean, I think Rahane has to go. Like this is a player who's backed to score in these series overseas, right? Like they're fine in him not scoring at home. He's never been a good player at home, but these are the series where he had to step up. And now you've got England. He didn't do anything. Here he looked good in 2 innings, but again in both those innings he also threw his wicket away when he was set and India needed him, and the batting collapsed after that. I think he was a major part in the second Test, stabbing at the ball, stabbing at outside off first ball, not a shot from your experienced number 5. You expect. And I mean, now he's played like 2 rounds of overseas tours now since this successful one in 2014, and he's not done well. He's not had any like really solid series. All he's really got right now is an MCG 100, really, to back him up for anything. I really think they need to look at other options. I think the fact that he wasn't captaining the second Test, which I do think was a mistake, I do think he should have been captain that match. That definitely shows the Indian team is definitely moving past him. The fact that they give KL Rahul, who's doesn't have a great captaincy record based off the limited times we have seen him in IPL and domestic cricket, that definitely shows that they're looking past Rahane. And I think Vihari has to feel hard done. I mean, he was not picked in New Zealand just because they are like, you're an overseas specialist, go practice India A. He did that. He scored runs. Then he didn't get picked. Then he did get picked, scored the runs, and then got dropped instead of when Rahane or someone else should have made way for him. So I think Vihari and Iyer will definitely be in that contention for that number 5 spot. I think in Indian conditions, Iyer would probably take that spot. But Vihari is I definitely think there's a lot to like about Vihari's batting, and I think the 40 not out could have definitely been a big innings too if he didn't get stranded with the tail.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else who could replace Rahane is Surya Kumar Yadav. I mean, we've seen him in the domestic circuit. He has a great technique, and he's also an aggressive batsman, so that could help in the middle order when you need to make runs quickly. Someone like Pant. But yeah, in terms of hierarchy, it's definitely Vihari, then Iyer, and then probably someone like Surya Kumar. But Rehane has to go. I think it's high time that Rehane has to go. Also, one theory that I have is that Virat Kohli left captaincy because the next captain who comes makes the decision to remove Rehane because he couldn't. But yeah,
Well,
someone
Kohli
has to come in place of Rehane.
And then what about Pujara? What's the thoughts on Pujara?
I think Pujara stays. Pujara played very well, and he got like a couple. I don't know, at least the one that he was caught down the leg side. Like any other day, that's 4. So, and then I think maybe it's the way he bats. Like he always gets kind of caught on the crease. He always plays super late. So I guess, like it seems like every ball he gets out to is absolutely unplayable, which can't be true. So either he's really unlucky or he bats in a way that makes all the balls look super good. So,
Well, he blocked because he doesn't play too many shots, right? So to get him out, you need a really, really good ball. But I think
he
hit
played a
that
lot of
50
shots this time, actually. Like,
yeah,
that's aggressive.
Yeah, if you look at the times he has scored now, the 50, the 40, and then the 350 he scored in England.
Yeah,
he's batted a lot more aggressively, and I think he even said it like, yeah, if I just when he hit 3 of 30 and then got out, he even said, yeah, if I felt like if I just kept stabbing at the ball and not actually playing my shots, I was just going to get a good ball and get out, which is why I expanded in that innings where he hit 100-run parts of the Rahane. I thought he looked really, really good. I've always been a bigger backer of Pujara than Rahane. I know those two tend to be bracketed together for their poor form the last 3 years. I think Pujara is a little different from any other Indian batsman that can come in for him. He has a different form of game that works well in Test cricket. I think Rahane, there's a lot of replacements who bat like him and will do it better. But I don't think it's easy to just come in at number 3. It's a really tough position. The only way I could have seen
there's 2 number 3s in recent history that have shown that it's not hard to bat. Right? Peterson and Marnus. They've shown it's fairly straightforward. So I mean, yeah, you never know.
But that style of playing is also different from Pujara, right? Pujara has a specific role, and that is not to get out so that India doesn't have a middle order.
No, I think a better number 3 is you should be able to survive and not immediately get out right after your opener loses their wicket, right? Because you should be able to accelerate as well as slow down. So Pujara is more of like that slower player, and this series he did show that he can accelerate, which is good, and which I agree with Rishi. He should stay and keep his spot in the team for that. But yeah.
But I think I thought after that when Mayank hit that 60 and he obviously scored 100 in season, I thought he was looking good, and I was thinking maybe when Rohit comes back, Mayank could go to 3 because I think Mayank has the game for 3, but then he completely fell off after the series and he went back to some old habits. So that because like I don't think Iyer, Vihari, Surya can bat at 3 in Test cricket yet. So the only option I saw was Mayank, but until Mayank gets that really consistent run, I think they'll stick with Pujara there. I'm pretty sure Rahane's done. Like I can't. There's like no point playing Pujara and Rahane in a series against Sri Lanka coming up. Like you gotta at least try something new.
Yeah. There still are like World Test Championship points on the line though. So you would play your best team, but Rahane probably doesn't fit in there. Also, India went with 5 bowlers. I feel like with Ashwin, I mean he was bowled, but I think he did not have as big of an impact as he would have liked.
I mean, with the bat he did, right?
With the bat, he did, but compare that to playing a Vihari, who you're probably going to get at least like 40 more runs per match out of.
Per match.
I don't know if like Thakur obviously did very well, but I
with
think
the ball.
With the ball, yeah. I think India probably played 1 bowler too many. Not sure who would have gone out, but
spin was very ineffective, right? Even Maharaj as well. Like he bowled 1 over in the second match. Like in each inning, and then he got 7 overs in this last one. But yeah,
and he got hit
Ashwin as well was not effective. So yeah.
I think.
What do you guys think about Ashwin's controversial DRS call, the one with Dean Elgar?
Oh, that was ridiculous.
There was no way that the ball was bouncing that high, but of course
it was out. But India was being stupid.
Yeah. I think the stump mic conversations were a bit too salty.
Yeah, that was like
Kohli shouldn't have done that.
I expected so much better from Ashwin and Kohli and Rahul. Like I've lost so much respect for them. I feel like it's like I never played a professional sport at any like level, so I can't like understand the emotion. But I feel like you've got to like understand that no one's like sitting there and like changing the computer vision models on the fly or whatever to change where the ball is going to go. Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I think when you so I mean, having played like since I do play cricket at a fairly competitive level, it does get fairly emotional on the field. And I do think it's good that India didn't come in. If they came out to a press conference and said stuff like, "Oh, we think South Africa are cheating, super sports cheating," that'd be ridiculous. Because then you've had time to have your emotions, and then you actually truly believe it. I know on the field you could say stuff like that. You get pretty pissed. I mean, I think even in the first set, Mayank Agarwal's LBW looked very suspect, and I think he also seemed pretty irritated when he saw that I was hitting the stumps. And I think it was a similar situation here. And I think just the desperation of a series win and all that really got into their head. I mean, we know how much Kohli loves to win test matches. I think, and I think that really
I mean,
got into them.
that early wicket of Elgar could have made the entire difference, right?
Yeah,
Because he went on to score.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, but I think it's good India didn't come. I think even Kohli came out and said, that could have been a factor, but at the end of the day, we were outbatted and outbowled. So it's good that they actually don't truly believe what they were saying. It was just the emotion, and it is an emotional game. But I think going to the stump mic and saying it is a little too much. It's
that's
dumb.
Horrible. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how I think it was pretty bad. I think
I mean, banter from outside the stumps like what Rishabh Pant does is still good, but yeah, going to the stump mic and shouting at the broadcasters or something like that, that's not acceptable at all.
Yeah, they should have been sanctioned. I think the only reason they weren't is because India will be like, okay, I'm gonna just play IPL 12 months a year, and then you have no money.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, come on. If Rabada did that thing, he'd get slapped with some 3-match ban. That man is like bumped shoulders with Steve Smith and nearly got banned from 3 test matches. Like, and he gets a suspension just for giving a send off. Like, so I think that's pretty ridiculous. I think that part's pretty ridiculous that they didn't get anything happen. Not that I think they should have gotten it, but if Rabada gets 1-match bans for stuff like that, they definitely should get something. And I think I've always had a problem with the stump mics being on. I think the creators should be allowed to say anything they want without having to worry about people judging them on the outside, especially because a lot of cricket fans don't understand cricket at all, and they don't understand like a lot of things you say on the field are just like normal. But the fact that they went to the stump mics means that part's just irrelevant because they wanted people to hear it then.
Yeah, I think I would have even been fine if like they said to Elgar like, oh, like, look, you're getting away with this, like, oh, this is kind of sus. But to say it to the broadcaster to allege that you're like, someone is like cheating, that's pretty bad. I really expected better of Ashwin. So disappointed with that.
But like Akash, to get back on the Ashwin point, do you really think it made sense for Ashwin to really play in this series then? Do you think the England decision of playing Jadeja at 7 and Thakur at 8 made sense now? Because the ball is not going to spin it. It doesn't spin at all here. They're better. Jadeja's a way better batsman than Ashwin, which is pretty established. And I know we've had this debate on not on the Calcutta chat, but our own group chat that we have, right? We've had this debate as well. Do you think it really made sense for Ashwin to play this series? Nothing against his bowling, but if the ball's not going to spin at all, no matter how good of a bowler you are, would it make sense to play a batsman?
Yeah, potentially. I think it's tough to always go in without a spinner. Like, I think even Australia, right? Like they still played Nathan last Ashes test match, right? And he can bowl a ball. I think if Jadeja had been fit, they would have played him because I think Jadeja's containing off spin is probably just as good as Ashwin's when the pitch doesn't turn. Ashwin will probably buy you an extra wicket or two. Like in Australia, he was a massive player. So I think it's worth it. Maybe Ashwin may be slightly underperformed. He could have easily had like 5 or 6 wickets in the series, which might have justified it. There were a couple like close edges, close shouts. If he got an Elgar, like who knows, he might have gotten like 2 or 3 more. But I think going forward, you have to play an extra batsman. I think maybe like Thakur did very well, but if I was selecting the team, I'd probably go with 3 pacers and Ashwin.
Jadeja is definitely a better back than Ashwin, but what India needs after Pant is a good bowling all-rounder and a good batting all-rounder. So right now they have Ashwin and Shardul who are both bowling all-rounders. So the problem is that Hardik is not bowling right now. If Hardik was fit and he was bowling, then he would come in as a batting all-rounder after Pant, and India could also have played Ashwin instead of Jadeja. But right now, if there's no Hardik and if you have 2 bowling all-rounders, then it's always better to have a Jadeja who's a better batsman than Ashwin. The other option, of course, was Vihari, but I'm not sure if he's been bowling lately.
I think Vihari's a part-time. Varmi's a part-timer. It doesn't.
Yeah, he'll bowl like 6-7 overs in a game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Hardik Pandya is test material, so I think
Hmm.
Charlotte Tucker is better than him cricket, and
As a
I think
bowler, of
Charlotte
course.
I think Charlotte Tucker had an amazing series. Though I mean, I think one of the biggest shocks that he got a 7 wicket haul. I think that's a pretty shocking thing to happen because that's not something expected. You always think of him as a bits and pieces cricketer. But yeah, I think the thing is, I think Ashwin isn't a 7. I think he's an 8. That's the thing. Charlotte Tucker's an 8.
On
Jadeja
these
is
pitches, on these pitches,
yeah,
Ashwin is
yeah.
probably an 8.
I mean, he had a brilliant 42, but I mean, I think when when he was batting with Rishabh Pant and he kept going for that card, I think that was a really like dumb piece of cricket from someone who's played almost 100 Test matches. You got to be more aware than that. You know, Rishabh Pant's going at 5, getting 5, 6 runs and over, and you got. I know Ashwin actually is a lot more attacking than we think in Test cricket as a batsman. But I think someone like Jadeja is just a better all round batsman, both in attacking and defensive way. And I think a lot of times we kind of underrate Jadeja's bowling as well. I think people forget he averages under 24. He has good averages away. He has a good bowling record in Australia, England, South Africa. He has a 6-wicket haul in South Africa too. So I think his injury was definitely a massive blow to India. So was Rohit's. But I think one more thing if we're going to South Africa team, I think one thing we should probably talk about is we probably saw one of the best innings of the year in what Rishabh Pant played. I mean, to score 100 when the rest of the team hit probably like 120 runs and to do it at the strike rate he was playing, I mean, it showed why like this is like a cricketer you got to back. You're gonna get those like stupid dismissals like he did in the second test. That's gonna be part of his career. But when you have now he's hundreds in like in South Africa, England, New Zealand. You gotta really appreciate what he did there. I mean, he is some batsman.
Yeah, and what stood out to me was he was on 99. The field was spread. He didn't take the single in the beginning of the over.
Yeah.
So that showed like, he's a like extreme dedication to the team. So yeah, I'm a big fan of him after that innings.
I think after the
continued
GABA
form as well.
I mean, I think you gotta just like accept. There's going to be dismissals with Pont that you were going to get mad at, like you're going to get frustrated with. But
Yeah,
if he
that
cuts,
shot, if he hits that shot, and middles it and it goes for 6, people are gonna applaud him versus
right,
him missing it and like getting caught out. Right, so it's yeah.
I think the thing
opinion.
I've seen Pont's best innings is he doesn't play that shot on 0. He waits for his time and plays it. The fact that he came out, I still think that wasn't a temperament. I think someone said something to him before that shot that got him pissed and he wanted to prove something.
Yeah.
But I think he had a little lean run of form both in England and South Africa. But I think that innings just showed like, first of all, I mean like the strike rate to bat on that pitch shows that he's sometimes just like a high class above anyone because the ball was seaming around, it was bouncing. All the South African bowlers were struggling. I mean, Kohli was playing half the strike rate that Pujara's average. So
Yeah.
that says a lot. I think we should move on to South Africa now. I think we've talked about South African bowling. I think I want to talk about one like really underrated part of their batting unit. I think we've talked a lot. I think Keegan Peterson's been massive for them. Elgar's been massive for them. But Temba Bavuma actually ended the series with an average of 70, and because he got it only 3 times, and he really was like a rock for that middle order. If you guys think about Temba Bavuma, I mean, he's a pretty controversial character in South African cricket circles. Like, a lot of people call him a Kota captain. A lot of people think he's pretty average because he only has 100 in around 7 years. But I've always found him to be a high quality Test batsman.
I think his record probably is a consequence of the pitches he plays on. Like if you looked at this past series, right, 40 was a solid score. Like 30s and 40s were equivalent to probably 60s and 80s. So I think eventually he does need to score more. I don't think him being vice captain and undroppable probably does, there might be other people on the sidelines who could potentially make a better fist of things. But I think he played really well in like, closing out the match. And he's obviously like very like, he has a lot of experience playing. And I think this could be the start of something really good for him.
What do you guys think about the Player of the Series award option? So, I mean, Keegan Peterson did get the award and he was the highest run scorer, but Dean Elgar also played really well. He had that 70 and other 40 odd runs. And also look at the bowlers, like Rabada had 20 wickets and he had an average of 19. Marco Jansen also had 19 wickets and an average of 16, I think. So yeah, I mean, it is a batsman's game, but the player of the match could also have gone to Rabada. What do you guys think?
So I thought Rabada. I try to think in a bowler friendly series. I try to give it to who the best batsman is, and then vice versa. So I actually was pretty happy. I didn't know it would be Peterson or Elgar. Even though Rabada is probably the most standout player, I think a batsman who's especially one who's pulled off two very difficult run chases. And Dean Elgar also scored 77 in the first test too. I think either one would have been fine, but I'm pretty happy, and I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good for Keegan Peterson's career. I mean, it's probably his first major series. There's a lot of hype about him too before this series. I know everyone's saying this is the one promising player, and even when he was making like 10, 20, they were still saying like, look how he bats. You could tell this guy's a 50 average player, and he really proved it. So I think I wasn't too disappointed. I'm more disappointed about the Ashes actually player of the series, but that's a different podcast.
Wait, who got it? Oh, Head. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think the South Africa team? I think the South Africa team's next challenge. So you look at India team now. Their next challenge is in Sri Lanka. Pretty sure they'll breeze
The
through the
ODI
next few
series before
series.
all of that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the test team right now. And then South Africa's the next series is in New Zealand. I think that'll be a very interesting series. They'll come up with now that they have a pace attack that'll definitely fight in New Zealand. It'll be very different strengths. I'll be interested to see if they don't seem to have genuine swing bowlers. I made that point. Mark Jansen does have an in swinger. Rabada can obviously seam the ball a bit, but New Zealand is conditions for swing bowlers. I mean, Bolt, Saudi, they're the kings of swing there. How do you think South Africa will fare there in New Zealand conditions? That's a team that's
It's pretty interesting
until
to look at
Bangladesh beat them.
because Bangladesh. That's why.
Until
Yeah.
Bangladesh beat them,
So-
pretty invincible at home.
Yeah. So it'll be pretty interesting because although Bangladesh did have some really good swing bowlers, reverse swinging especially, so that clearly helped them in those conditions. But with Ross Taylor retiring, obviously, I mean, he hasn't scored recently or consistently in any way. But yeah, I think will Williamson be back by that series? No,
I'm
right?
not sure. I don't
Yeah,
even know what the
so-
series is. I was just looking at the fixtures, but
Yeah, so that
It'll
could
definitely
definitely be a chance for South Africa to stamp their place in world cricket and prove that they are in top 5, right?
yeah, and that's a fort. And beating New Zealand in New Zealand is a fortress. So at the
Yeah.
moment, they haven't lost there in a while. So I think that'll be a very. I'm very excited for that series.
Mhm.
The Indian team, I don't really. The only interesting thing I see is what their responses to the series is, especially with Pujara and Rahane. And I think we should probably talk about who do you guys think will be the next Test captain for India?
I think definitely Rohit Sharma, right? Because before the start of the South Africa series, Rahane was removed as vice captain and Rohit was the vice captain. But because he injured his hamstring, KL Rahul became the interim vice captain and also captain one game. But I think after Rohit is back, he will definitely
No,
be the
I mean,
vice captain.
would they
He
give it
will
to a
definitely
younger
captain.
player to sort of mold them in and give them time to build their captaincy, or because Rohit's probably going to retire sooner than other players, right? So I mean, would you give
you
it to like a
could, but
Bumrah or Punt or someone?
you could,
It
but
cannot be
he's
Bumrah.
still the white ball captain, right? So won't you want to have uniformity in all of the formats till Rohit is
No.
playing?
Not
No.
necessarily, because you have, I mean,
Root
Finch,
Morgan.
Cummins, yeah, Root Morgan.
There's like one huge issue with Rohit being captain. He's just like way too injury prone. Like
Injuries,
he's missed a lot of Test series. I mean, a lot of times India keeps shuffling their openers because he keeps getting injured. So I just don't know how long term. I feel like he'll have to quit because he's the T20 and ODI captain. I feel like the only way he can be a Test guy is if he quits a format. Forgets we're not captain. He has to quit a format, and he can't do that if he's captain. I just can't see him. I can't see KL Rahul being captain. I think he's still too early in his Test comeback, right? I think he's.
Rahul, I think Rahul is too early. I don't know if he's that good of a captain either, judging by the IPL. I don't know if that's a solid metric though. And I think he did decently trying to defend 200. It was a low score. Maybe I think people said India looked a bit flat in the field. I don't know if you can blame him for that though. It's not like Kohli did any better. But yeah, I think it's too early for Rahul. I think Rohit Sharma will take it for like maybe a year, 2 years. By that point, maybe Rahul would probably be at a level where he can take it on. Maybe even punt, potentially. Bumrah is an option, but
Bumrah doesn't play at home, right? So then you're not going to have a captain.
Yeah.
Bumrah can't. Bumrah is the last option.
Doesn't play, or is he
plays all
usually like
formats.
rested or something like that?
Yeah, India cannot do the fast bowler captain. India cannot do what Australia did. They need to rotate fast bowlers, so it's not possible. The only way it'd have been possible is Ashwin, but even he's not a permanent fixture every game.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Like Bumrah is the vice captain for the ODIs. I think he could be a vice. Actually, if Rohit Sharma is a captain, would you say the VC would be Rahul?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Because you technically don't name the former captain as VC, so Kohli's not going to be a VC, right?
Yeah.
No, but it's not. This is not going to be an easy pick for India. I mean, I don't fully agree with Kohli retiring as Test captain. It's his choice. I don't think there's a clear spot because if Rahane was established in the team, that's an easy pick, right? Rahane's a brilliant captain. I'll definitely give it to him that, and we saw that in Australia. But Rahane and Pujara are the most senior batsmen, along with Rohit. Two of those guys are not guaranteed positions anymore. Rohit's not guaranteed to play every series with his injury record. You only really look at it, the only guy who's been playing almost every match is Rishabh Pant. So I was really thinking that would that be really left field to give Rishabh Pant to give him that responsibility of being right now one of India's best batsmen, a keeper and captain. I mean, obviously it worked with the last guy who did that. He ended up being India's most successful captain, but I don't know if India will want to do that to someone who's such a talented batsman. It's not gonna be an easy pick, and even if I think a lot can go, the safe pick is Rohit, but a lot can go wrong with that, like especially with his injury history.
Yeah, I think Rahul is too I guess not yet fully established enough to be the full-time captain if Rohit is injured. I would like to see Pujara or Ashwin as a vice captain on a series by series basis. Like if they're playing a subcontinental tour, I think Ashwin could be the vice captain. Overseas, if Pujara finds some form, probably him as well. But I think the BCCI is not going to do anything drastic. Every test match matters now with the World Test Championship. They'll probably go with Rohit for the end of this cycle, and then probably reevaluate, see who's in the team. Maybe Rahane will magically score a couple hundreds in the next couple of games. So
Please no.
For that.
I don't think it's good for Indian cricket. Rahane scores now.
I don't know. Those 40s look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean he looks good. Everyone looks good when they score a little bit of runs.
True. I think Ashwin would be good too, but I guess overseas he probably would not have played if Jadeja was here. So
then is that an option then? Jadeja as captain? Because he would play every test match. He also has a little bit of
might not
issues.
play in England or South Africa, right? India might want to pick Ashwin over him.
No, they will never pick Ashwin over him.
I think it was controversial to pick Jadeja over Ashwin in England.
But it's a pick that worked. They won that series, and Jadeja played well.
True. But in 2018, Ashwin did pretty well.
Still haven't done it yet.
Cooked a couple times. I think. I
don't think the problem is Ashwin's bowling in overseas. I don't think that's the problem at all. I think Ashwin bowled fine in the series as well. I think he bowled well in England. His record in England's good too. WTC bowled well. I think the thing is how impactful he's going to be, considering you have 4 excellent pacers already who do most of the damage, versus the runs you lose by not playing Jadeja, who is honestly a very competent batsman who outscoring India's number 3 and number 5 and number 4 at the moment.
True.
I think Ashwin might have played a lot more if India had a very solid middle order. I think that might have made the decision a little easier. But I think while India sticks with these players who are out of form, I think Jadeja is just a necessity. Yeah. And I mean I think after this Ashes, I think it's pretty established Jadeja is the best all-rounder in the world. I don't even think it's a debate anymore for him versus Stokes. So we're seeing when Ben Stokes doesn't play for England suddenly have to get into a whole thing we can't play Jack Leach because then we need a 4th pacer, and then everyone says no, Jack, we need 1 spinner at least, and then they get into a whole confuddle too.
Yeah,
it's too early to give a verdict on Stokes. So I mean, he just came back to Test cricket, and he's already one of the best batsmen for England. Not saying much,
35,
but
I don't know if he's
yeah,
he has a big reputation.
I think Stokes might be a bigger match winner, but Jadeja's a more consistent all-rounder.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: if I rank the 4 aspects of the game, I think Jadeja's bowling is Jadeja can bowl anywhere in the world and
he's a frontline spinner easily. Yeah.
So, look, I think Jadeja's the 3rd best spinner in the world. I can't say Stokes is the 3rd best batsman in the world. That's a huge factor. And I think Stokes' bowling is the worst of the 4 aspects.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
maybe that's a different video.
Tactically, though, I think Ashwin would be fantastic as captain. He was pretty good when he was an IPL team captain. I think he's one of the smartest cricketers going around, if not the smartest. So
Yeah, the shots he played on the third test doesn't indicate he was smart at all.
Yeah, he had a really nice interview on Crick Info though. Like the way he talked was pretty cocky, but also like, I don't know, never seen anyone like think that much. But
I fucking love that interview. I read that and I was like, I was embarrassed. I was like, dude, I will never get to this level of ball spin. I will never understand a batsman the way he does. I think
Yeah.
I started implementing. The first thing he said was, I think one thing that stood out from that interview was when a off-spinner comes around the wicket, every batsman tries to sweep and paddle because they suddenly believe that the ball will never pitch on the stumps. And I tracked Marnus like that LBW, even though it was overturned on height. He said, yeah, I immediately did that knowing he would sweep. And I was thinking, wait, that's so true. Every time a spinner comes around looking to me, I try to sweep them. I try to just paddle. So I started messing around a little bit in the nets, bowling around the wicket, trying to pitch it on the stumps, get them sweeping. And it was very cool to see. It's really cool to implement advice he was talking about in an interview into my own game.
No, I think at this point it's Ashwin like it's like a really good poker player playing poker against someone who doesn't know how to play. Like you can't tell if they're bluffing or not. And I think at this point, like no batsman is thinking as deeply about the game as Ashwin is. So like he can't like by thinking more and more, nothing's gonna change because the batsmen are simply not at the level where any strategy he employs is gonna make a difference. So
I mean, he said because India obviously had the whole quarantine period right before they didn't play any cricket right before that India Australia series. He said he made Marnus and Steve Smith his obsession, just figuring out the pace. It's not just like simple stuff like spinning it one way and stuff. It's like the pace to bowl, the legs to bowl in these conditions to them. What he checks their averages against different paces of spinners, which spinners have troubled them. Stuff like that. I mean, like that stuff we can't even implement because I don't even have the access to tech like that, right? But stuff like that just shows what a deep thinker he is, and he probably bothers the analyst a lot. But
yeah,
that really
he could
shows
be
it.
such a good coach or like an analyst. It'd be so good.
Yeah.
He can definitely be India's captain if he's playing all of the matches. He was Punjab's captain, right, for one season, and
Yeah.
he wasn't bad at captaining them, but he was
That
removed
team's
for
just
some
bad. That team's just bad. Like you know, like nobody can even Stephen Fleming can't captain that team. So it's not a big. It's not his fault. Anything last on South Africa? I think it's fair to say this is a pretty like important series victory for them. It's probably their biggest series victory in a while. And I'm really happy. I was actually really happy for them. Because they have struggled in the past few years, and I think they were very unlucky in the T20 World Cup not to make the semifinals, having only lost one game. So, and I think the world needs a good South African cricket. I think when I started watching cricket, South Africa was the best test team by miles. I mean, you look at the team with Steyn, De Villiers, Morkel, Faf, Graham Smith. You look at that team, and to me, like the world needs a good South African team. And despite the political issues, despite people's opinions of quota, I think there's always going to be a lot of talent in that country. And the fact that now, at least the Kolpak not being an option anymore, they're going to get some of their players back. I mean, I'm excited to see if Kyle Abbott gets back into the frame. I think Simon Harmer is as good of a spinner as Keshav Maharaj is, so whether he will get back into the frame as well. So I'm very excited to see South Africa does. I think the New Zealand series will be a great indicator because that'll not be an easy series for them.
Yeah, and they're playing Australia later this or early next year too, I think. So
a place they have a very good record in too. Some of the golden teams have all been in Australia. So that's
I think they're Australia's touring South Africa.
No, it's South Africa's coming to Australia. Like Boxing Day, the pink test is
really?
also
okay.
That's what's yeah. I know this because me and my friends are thinking of going to Australia next winter break and watch a match.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, I think this was India's best chance to beat South Africa in South Africa because this South African team is going through a transition period where their bowlers and the middle order is not that experienced. I think the next time when India will tour South Africa, India will have a team which is going through a transition period. A lot of their experienced players won't be there, and South Africa will be a much more experienced team.
Good thing. You can get rid of Rahane.
India definitely lost. India definitely lost.
They're going through a transition playing Rahane. Bring Rahane and Pujara right now. I honestly, they played better in 2018. They lost 2-1 that series as well. The matches were as close, but that South African team, that was the last golden South African team because after that was when De Villiers and Morkel and all retired. After the Sandpaper series, but before that South African team was way better than this one, and they were a lot closer there. So I think a lot of that has to do with I think the batting was a little better then, especially Kohli. Kohli was really big in that series, and Rahane and Pujara too were a lot better then. So I think it's definitely a big miss for India to lose this series. I think it's definitely their best opportunity to win in South Africa, but I guess you can't win it all. I mean, they won in England, they won in Australia. It's not easy to win in the SENA countries just like that, especially for a subcontinent team.
Why do you think Kohli
that,
stepped down from captaincy?
Yeah.
I mean, he pulled off an MS Dhoni, right? MS Dhoni would do something like this, step down from captaincy without giving any reason, right? I know India lost to South Africa, but it was an overseas tour, and I mean, no one was blaming Virat Kohli for this loss, right? So he didn't even give a proper explanation as to why he left the captaincy. But yeah,
until I get into Virat Kohli's head, I can't answer that question because I don't know I don't know. Like, and I don't think I don't think anyone knows the answer to that. That's like, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if there's some BCCI strings. I know there's some controversy with this ODI and T20. You don't know if maybe Kohli's looking at his own batting form and thinks. It's also stressful when the Indian test captain. He's been captain for 7 years now. Maybe the stress got him, and maybe now he thinks it's impacting his batting. And we know what a good batsman he is. He might want to just get back into it.
I just hope there wasn't any pressure from the BCCI, especially after he was removed from the ODI captaincy. And like, I hope that he's happy with his decision from inside, because India really need Virat Kohli, the batsman, right? Because he might not be the best captain, but he's still India's best batsman, in my opinion.
True.
I think we need to have a podcast, a separate one, about how important we think captaincy is. We were talking about a little bit about it on our chat, because I really do believe test captaincy is not a huge deal, and I really think it'd be an interesting debate topic.
I mean, we can look at averages of batsmen and like Root's average before, after, and then right now at least.
I don't know about team like how the captaincy can definitely affect batting, but your own batting. But I'm talking about how important captaincy is to helping making a team win. Like, I truly believe that I can captain Ricky Ponting's Australian team to 3 World Cups. I think I can do that. Like, it can't be that hard to be like, yo, Shane Warne, turn up and give me 5 wickets. Glenn McGrath.
Yeah, but I think the mindset also. I mean, we've seen a lot of the bowling attack for India talk about Kohli in high regards, right? Just in terms of fitness levels and, you know, just aggression and just the way they close out on a day 5 test match and win. That's something that Kohli brought to the team, and it's going to be sad not watching that. So hopefully the next captain continues and with that same aggression, but we'll see.
Yeah, I've always rated Kohli's captaincy in two different aspects. I think on the field he's an amazing captain. I think off the field he's an awful captain. When I say off the field, I mean his selection. I think his selection. Yeah. I think his selection issues is really. I think he's a really bad selector. I think there's a couple selection decisions that he does deserve some credit for, but on the field I think he's a brilliant captain. I think tactically he's pretty good. I do think there are better tacticians in the Indian team. I think Ashwin, Rahane, and Rohit are all better tacticians than him. But I do think there's a reason why fast bowlers are thriving under his captaincy, is because he supports them a lot more than previous captains have done.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Any last points to wrap it up? All good. Awesome. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like the video, subscribe, and yeah, share if you can. Thanks everyone.